Welcome to the Political Millennial Podcast. We have a lot to cover today. I am talking like 20 pages worth of notes from the past couple days. So much has been happening. We're going to talk about the Chauvin verdict, the George Floyd trial outcome. We are going to talk about Crazy Nancy's crazy comment. Oh my gosh, this thing infuriated me, and it also lit up most of the United States. What she said is not Nancy, not good. You said something way past not okay. So bad. The Arizona border crisis. We're going to talk about that briefly. It's pretty much a continuation of what's been going on. And then finally, what happened relatively recently. Very, very sad situation. We'll get into it. Ma'Khia Bryant, the police shooting, the 16-year-old who was shot and killed by police. We'll get into the details of that here in a little bit. Let's go ahead and get into it, because we've got so much to cover. Thank you so much for tuning in. My name is Connor. I'm the Political Millennial. So, the Derek Chauvin, George Floyd trial. You know, a lot of people have a lot of different ideas of what should have happened, but here is what happened. Chauvin was found guilty on all counts, second-degree murder, third-degree murder, and second-degree manslaughter. The sentencing is going to be in 8 weeks. The exact date, I've not seen yet. I don't know if it's been announced yet by the judge. I keep seeing leftist tweets, though. This is so angry. It's angering. But I keep seeing these leftists tweet, quote, most American, well, it's not really a quote, but this is kind of what they say. Most Americans believe this guilty verdict was and is the correct verdict, which from what I've been seeing is true. This is what people have, been expecting to happen. And it's what a lot of people thought should happen. But they come back, and this is where, it becomes an issue. We saw that there was jubilation in the crowd when the verdict was first announced, but very soon after that, the crowd that was gathered around the courthouse, and this goes for across America, political analysts, people on Facebook, Twitter, everywhere, started saying, we must fix racial injustice in America. Like, this was the correct verdict, but no, the system, it didn't work. This isn't an example of the system working. It's what should have happened, which is false. Just by definition, if this verdict was what should have happened, then the system is working. This is a contradictory statement that leftists are making, and it's stupid. It's downright stupid. If the American people believe this is the right verdict, how is there so much injustice in this nation? You can't have it both ways. That's what people are saying. If this was the right verdict, how can you claim there is so much injustice in the justice system? It doesn't make sense. You can't have it both ways. The left wanted Chauvin to be acquitted. This is what I realized. The left wanted Chauvin to be acquitted so they could make massive changes to the justice system. This is what they wanted. It's not what happened. So this is why you saw the initial jubilation, and then everybody come back and be like, no, wait, we can't say this. We can't say that the system works, because then we're acknowledging that the system works for everyone. If it worked for George Floyd, then it works elsewhere. And this, it does. I recognize that there are going to be the bad seeds across the nation. We all recognize this, and everybody admits this. No system is perfect, right? But there's a problem now that Chauvin has been convicted on all counts for the left. They wanted this verdict, they didn't want this verdict. Yet they're still claiming that the justice system is broken. This doesn't make sense. How can he be found guilty if the system is not working? It contradicts everything the left has been saying up until the verdict was handed down. You can't have it both ways. You cannot have it both ways, okay? Are there problems with the justice system? Absolutely. There are problems with all systems, like I said before, because they're operated by humans who make mistakes, right? Not every single person in the United States is perfect. We don't have anybody that's perfect. No one's perfect. So to expect a system to work 100% of the time, when even a person doesn't work 100% of the time, it just doesn't make sense. Human nature isn't perfect. Therefore, the creation, the byproducts of humans, whatever it may be, cannot be perfect. There's always going to be a flaw. I bet you love your iPhone. I'm recording this on an iPhone right now. It has flaws. Computers have flaws. Microphones have flaws. Lights have flaws. I have flaws. You have flaws. Anything that is human or is a byproduct of human thought or creation is going to have flaws. The next system that the left would put in place would also have problems. It would have flaws. Why? Because it was made by humans. The same truths apply across the board. The left is not perfect. My goodness. They are far from perfect. Look at all the contradictory statements that they make. If you look at any story that comes from the left, you will find contradictions within this story on things that they have said before. Why? Because they change the narrative 100% of the time to fit their narrative at that time. Whatever they said before doesn't apply. It doesn't apply because that was then and this is now. But when it comes to Republicans and the right, different rules. Different rules. Look, no one's perfect, but if you contradict yourself like this and like the left does, it's blatantly obvious. We all see it, okay? All the Dems want to do is use Floyd's death, and this is proven later on. All that the left wants to do is use Floyd's death as a reason for change, that's in air quotes, change, aka the destruction of America, which we see happening, especially in cities like Portland and Minneapolis. We see this change that they're wanting to put in. And now we see, it's really kind of just a gesture, isn't it? But the DOJ is going to be investigating, I think is the word they used, investigating the Minneapolis Police Department for signs of systematic racism and injustice, things of that nature. So we'll see where that goes. But keep in mind, Minneapolis is a leftist city. Who comes from Minneapolis? I think I was going to make this point later on, but here it is. Who is from Minneapolis? Who's from Minnesota? Ilhan Omar. One of the most outspoken, contradicting representatives that there is. It's this way, it's not that way, like I said it was before, because now it's like this. That's basically the left's complete plan and ideology. Anyway, getting back to what I was saying, the Dems, the left, they want to use Floyd's death for change, and we saw this in Pelosi's statements. Like blatantly, we saw straight through what she was saying. Everybody did, even the left. They were like, Nancy had to bring that on back. She had to retract. Well, she didn't retract her statement, but she clarified it. In air quotes, clarified it, which is basically changing what she said on the record. But she thanked George Floyd for dying, which you thank soldiers for dying for their country. George Floyd was murdered, according to the jury. He didn't choose to die. It's actually very offensive that you would say that, Nancy. She thanked him for dying for her cause, on behalf of justice. Thank you for dying for justice, George Floyd. She's crazy, man. She's crazy. But we'll talk about that more in a few minutes. But wow. Oh my, did that make me very angry. How insensitive. How insensitive. On the day the man who killed George Floyd is convicted, you thank him for dying. His family is going through a whole lot, and you thank their family member for dying. And then the family, one of the brothers, the girlfriend of George Floyd thanked him too. What is going on? You don't thank people for being murdered. What in the world? Come on, man. But let me come back. I would be remiss if I didn't speak about the fear of mass rioting. Okay. If the verdict didn't go the way that the left wanted. I was going to say some people, because there are people on both sides who thought this was going to happen, who thought just because of the environment around this case. One guy, forget his name, one guy on MSNBC oh God, what did he say? It'll come back to me. I forgot. I'm sorry. I was trying to recall something that's not written down. I lost it. But all these mass riots, they would have happened. This is what the judge spoke about after Maxine Waters' comments. Ooh, wow, Maxine, my goodness. Calling for confrontation. That sounds a whole lot like fighting. Yes, it does. And you know what? You impeached Trump for using the word fight. Why aren't we impeaching you? Oh, that's right, because the Democrats are in control. Shoot. Well, maybe next time, who knows. But the judge actually acknowledged the fact that the environment around the trial is not it was not exactly a healthy situation, right? And that 100% could have weighed on the jurors. He acknowledged this. It's in court record. That he acknowledged that these people they very well could be worried about their homes being burned down. These people are from there. They live in that county. Their homes, their names could have been made public. People get doxxed all the time. Rioters could have ransacked their house, their home. Some of them had children. The youngest of the jurors was 20. And I recognize that this could have been 100% what they believe. I understand that, and I accept that. I have no problem with people thinking whatever they want. That's fine, but I am free to think what I want. But the environment around this trial was made way worse when Maxine Waters made this following statement. I quote, "We gotta stay on the streets and we gotta get more active," Waters urged the protesters. "We've gotta get more confrontational. We've got to make sure that they know that we mean business. Get more confrontational." After the past year, there were billions of dollars done in damage to cities around the United States. Billions with a B. Billions of dollars done in damage. More confrontational? Do you want to burn down entire cities? Because that's what would have happened. Minneapolis would have burned to the ground. The entire city. If that trial did not go the way BLM and the left wanted. Can you imagine? If Trump had said these words? Oh, Trump the devil. Using the word fight. Confrontational is a synonym with fight. Confrontation is literally a synonym with fight. Why is it any better? It doesn't have any different meaning. Yes, you can confront people peacefully, but you can also fight peacefully. Martin Luther King fought peacefully. BLM? Most of the time not fighting peacefully. I realize there are people who show up while it's still light during the day and, in the early dusk hours. They're marching peacefully, and I support that wholeheartedly. That is your American right. What is not your American right is to burn buildings down, set cars on fire, massacre police, beat police, and it's not their right to do that to you or me or anybody. But that's not what's happening, is it? It's not. Most of the time, the police have a just motive to take the actions they do. We'll talk more about that just action in a little bit. But can you imagine if Trump had said these words, or any Republican for that matter, or even an independent, anybody who isn't aligned with the left 100%? If you're off 1% of that alignment, you're out. They don't care. By the way, Waters also calls the entirety of the Republican Party and conservatives the right. She calls the right racists a few sentences before the quote that I just read. So if you go and look at the actual statement she made to the reporter, if you're a Republican, she called you a racist. She said the Republicans, the racists. And then whatever else she said. I don't remember. I didn't write it. But go look at it, because it's pretty not okay. But guys, here's the thing. She said confrontational. She said get more confrontational, but in that same statement, you'll notice that most of the media outlets left out that she used the F word. She used the F word. That's right. Fight. She used the word fight. The word that Trump, a United States president, was effectively impeached for using. He said this was their main arguing point. The mob went from Trump's speech down to the Capitol, and this happened because he used the word fight. This is what encouraged the events that took place. Fight. Do you see the hypocrisy in this? Do you see it? It's ridiculous. She uses the same words, and she's used those words before. Many other Democrats have used those words, and Republicans have used those words. But the president, for some reason, can't use those words. The leader of the free world, the person who protects your right to use those words, he can't say those words. That's very interesting to me. Yeah. The Democrats, they're the party of morality. And I keep saying this on Twitter. If you're following me, people keep, engaging with me, and they're always so moral. So moral are the people on Twitter. But look, we're all glad the verdict came back guilty, and Greg Gutfeld actually touched on this on air right after the verdict was handed down. And even I was like, oh, Greg, don't say that, my man. But he was right. I think this shows how bad the situation actually was surrounding the trial, right? It was actually that bad. This is what the jurors would have had weighing on them. The destruction of their city and much more of the country. It would all land on whoever disagreed with the guilty verdict. Every major city probably would have burned in some form or fashion. And I live in a major city. I mean, not major, but it's big. It's definitely a city people know about. Austin, Texas? Heard of it? Yeah. It's a liberal just warehouse. So many liberals. And they're moving here from other places trying to get away from the liberal policies, but they're enacting them here. So please don't. Please don't. If you're coming here, you can be liberal. I don't care. But don't bring the same policies that you're trying to get away from. That's just stupid. It's just stupid. The fact that we're relieved means that the left actually accomplished what they wanted to do. They wanted to make you scared. They wanted that verdict. They did. They wanted Chauvin to be locked away for life. And maybe he should have been. I'm not the judge. I wasn't a juror. I gave you my thoughts last podcast. Should have been second-degree manslaughter, and that's it, because there's too many other factors that make me question what actually happened. But second-degree manslaughter absolutely should have happened. He did not render medical aid. That's manslaughter. But with this fear that the Democrats have given us, as a whole, as a country, comes control. Fear equals control. Because they can say whatever they want and you're going to believe it because you're scared. You think they're there to help you. They're definitely there to hinder you. Just look at the things they say. Just look at it. Some of the statements that are made are ridiculous. Just absolutely horrendous. But with fear comes control, which is ultimately what they want. They don't care about it. They don't care about anything else. They don't care about you. They don't care about me. They don't care about the country. They care about themselves and how long they can stay in power. It's sickening. It makes me nauseous to think about. And I even told Taylor, my wife, today, like, I don't want to have kids until this political environment calms down, because I have no idea what's actually going to happen in the country, which is something I can't say that I experienced growing up. That's how bad it's become. But we're going to see the verdict in the Floyd trial appealed, obviously, by the defense. It's just what they do anytime someone's convicted of murder. But there's actually grounds to throw this case out because of that questionable influence from the outside on this trial. But those comments made by Maxine Waters, they almost got got a mistrial declared. That by itself, those comments by themselves almost got a mistrial. So I think the judge just wanted to get the trial done, and then in appeal they can come back and I'm not gonna predict what's gonna happen, because obviously I don't know. But the appeal, it might be pretty compelling. I think the judge was just trying to put off the inevitable, which is sad to say. I think he didn't want it on him. I don't know if the appeal will go to him or not. I really don't know, but we'll see what happens. I need to take a break. Let me tell you all about Patreon real quick. So this is what I'm doing for my job right now. I don't have any sponsorships at the moment. So if you know anybody looking, to dole out a sponsorship to somebody with like 2 listeners, I'm your guy. But I recently made this Patreon, and I don't want to pressure you at all. I'm literally just going to tell you about it. If you want to help support this quest, this adventure, this noble, I can only call it a quest because I have no idea what the end result is, but I hope that we start to make an influence and we start to move the idea that millennials are all liberals, because we see what's going on. Everybody I know sees what's going on. It's ridiculous. They're trying to influence our children, so down the line, they become who they want them to become. It's a scary thought, and this is one of the reasons I don't want to have children, but it's also one of the reasons that I started this podcast and this adventure. I want to change what's going on. I want to help. So if you would like to help me continue to fight, there's that F word, Patreon. It's there. The link will be in the description. Please just go check it out, because I'm going to really start being active on it here eventually, and there will be content there that's not anywhere else. I promise that. If you help support me, there will be content there that is not anywhere else for you. Let's go on. The Biden press conference. This was right, the Biden press conference. He spoke about the Floyd trial. He spoke about it before, hopefully not influencing the trial. And then he spoke about it after to give his real thoughts, I guess. But unsurprisingly, Biden immediately referred to systematic racism, something that we hear about all the time that is fake. The only systematic racism that I know about was the Jim Crow laws that the Democrats actually put into place. The Southern Democrats, back in the day, when President Joey. He was just, getting into politics. Yeah, the Jim Crow laws were still in effect then. Actually, they might have just gone out of effect. He wasn't in the Senate in 1960. It was a little bit later. But he did know a Klansman, so that, says something about it. But tell me, somebody, please comment, how exactly is what happened with the George Floyd trial systematic racism? Oh, wait. Go ahead and comment real quick. I got to tell you. Wet the whistle. A lot of talking. But how is it systematic racism? Please tell me. It doesn't make any sense. What was systematic about this situation, this trial? Where was the system that was put in place to get Chauvin off the guilty verdict? Somebody tell me, because it didn't happen, and unless I'm suddenly living in an alternate reality, I'm pretty sure he was found guilty on all counts. And a lot of people actually think he was guilty on all counts, but I'm not really sure what was systematically racist about this. To use George Floyd's death as a basis for change, to change the system, it's not justified by this trial. To use his death as a means for change is not justified by this verdict. The two don't match up. They don't equate. What happened to Floyd shouldn't have happened. He should have been helped while he was there on the ground. He should have been. This is why I believe manslaughter applied in this situation. But don't blame the system for one guilty individual's actions, or lack thereof. Floyd could have been saved. Chauvin chose to stay on him, which I recognize, and I know that the situation around the scene was not good for him. It wasn't good for Chauvin, it wasn't good for the other officers, and it wasn't good for George Floyd because it ultimately kept him from staying alive. In Biden's press conference, he made this quote: "Most men and women who wear the badge do so honorably." Okay, good. This is good. So then explain to me, why is the system broken then? If most wear the badge honorably, they do what they're supposed to do, like my family member, then how is the system broken? Once again, you can't have it both ways, Joey. You can't have it both ways. The Dems have yet to show how the system is actually broken. Do you know who helped break the system? Joe Biden. The war on drugs is a horrible thing. And who put the war on drugs legislation into place? Part of it, the crime bill. We all know about the crime bill. Joe is so proud that he co-signed on that. He helped write the damn bill, is what he said. That's a quote. So Joe helped break the system, and now he gets to come back and save it / change it? Bro, you changed the system. It was better beforehand. You literally ruined lives with the bill you wrote, with the legislation you wrote. Ruined lives. Just because individuals who make bad decisions put themselves into these situations 99% of the time by choice, it does not mean that the system is broken. It doesn't. But the legislation Joe Biden put in place, that is responsible for what's happening now. It is. It helped break the system. Joe Biden, breaker of systems. He should be in Game of Thrones. Make no mistake, this is the Democrats once again putting their cause, their agenda on the backs of black people. Blacks, Hispanics, Asians, people of color, as they like to call them, are fellow humans. That's what I like to call them. They're racially charging Floyd's death so that our minority communities can carry their legislation across the line. This is what they want. The Democrats aren't doing any real work to convince anybody that this is what needs to happen. They're just telling us this is what needs to happen. And those of us on the left, us citizens, seem to just take that for what it is. This is what has to happen. The media keeps showing all these killings of people who are trying to kill other people. Don't let them fool you. No. The Democratic Party is the party of slavery. Let that sink in. Let it sink in. The Democrat Party fought against the Union. The South was full of Democrats at the time. Full of Democrats. The Confederacy was Democrat. The Democrat Party fought against the Union to keep slavery as an institution. They wanted to keep slavery. Guess what? They lost. They lost. Now we see the Democrat Party attempting to use those less fortunate who've been affected by the wrongful actions of police officers. Use them to get the legislation across the line? You're going to use a man's death who was apparently murdered. You're going to use his death as the vessel to get this legislation across. You don't care. You don't care about what it actually does. Just like Joe Biden didn't care what the crime bill actually did. He didn't care. He might have seemed like he did, but he didn't. He ruined families. And Biden, in his speech, he didn't even mention the riots, which tells you that they're trying to cover that up, I guess. Trying to cover it up. It caused billions of dollars in damage over the summer, and you just brush over it. What about the people who were affected? People were affected by what BLM did. A terrorist organization, a Marxist communist organization whose, leader is now rich. Their leaders are rich now. You donated to them and they bought homes. So she's actually a capitalist. Believe it or not. Joe Biden called this unifying, which the verdict, I can see how that would have been unifying, but after 30 minutes, once the verdict was handed down, BLM was already chanting the same things. The same things. They don't care. They don't care. It wasn't about George Floyd. It's about their movement. It's about becoming rich and famous. They don't care. I mean, if this is unity, I must not know what unity looks like with the way the country is nowadays. I remember when, what does this say? Oh, because what I remember was a majorly divided nation last summer. This is what I was meaning to talk about. There was nothing unifying about this past year. Yes, we came together and supported healthcare workers, but now it's turning back around and we're seeing people blame Big Pharma again. I thought they saved lives. Didn't they save lives with the vaccine? If Big Pharma's so bad, why are you taking their vaccine? Which you don't. You can take the vaccine if you want, but I will not. I don't need it. I'm not in the demographic. If you're older, take it. It'll help you, most likely. It also kills people. A lot more than it should. This nation is divided. Joe Biden has done nothing to unify this country like he said he would. It's left against right 100% of the time. 100% of the time. We all agree what happened to George Floyd should not have happened. Was Chauvin solely responsible? I'm still not entirely convinced. You may be. It doesn't matter at this point. I think Chauvin, again, should have got the manslaughter charge. Second-degree manslaughter. And I just don't think there's enough evidence that proves he didn't die from other causes, other influences. But I think the jury was wholeheartedly intimidated. They didn't want their house to burn down. They didn't want that to happen. Neither did I. I didn't want my house to burn down. I didn't want your house to burn down. And I didn't want their house to burn down. I don't want anybody's house to burn down. That's horrible. But just like Greg Gutfeld, I'm glad there was a conviction. I am. Because, I mean, we already had riots anyway coming because of what happened with the 16-year-old girl. We'll talk about that in a second, but it was going to happen. It was in the books. History had it. It was coming. It was in the future. We just didn't know it. Ma'Khia, she shouldn't have charged with a knife. She shouldn't. No one should. But if there wasn't a conviction, there would have been immediate riots. Well, at least we had like a 24-hour break or so. But the night after the Floyd conviction, we had riots. Last night, we had riots. You saw the crowd outside the courthouse. They were ready. They were ready to riot. Fox reported there were no gas masks or weapons in the crowd, but people dressed in all black. But they were there. I saw a gas mask, all black, backpacks. Who knows what they were carrying in the backpacks? They were ready to go. They were hoping for a fight, I'm sure. They love destruction. BLM and Antifa, man, they live for it. It's so apparent. That's what they want to do. But we're lucky. We're lucky we got that guilty verdict. I still think we should have had guilty on one charge. So hopefully that would have deterred any riots that were going to take place anyway. But we got all three, and they were satisfied for 24 hours. 24 hours. Lastly, I found this interesting. It was just while I was doing research around the Floyd case. Fox News shared a story written by one of their journalists about the guilty verdict in the Chauvin trial. And, Facebook has likes and dislikes and, sorry, lost my train of thought. But I looked at the number of likes and angry reactions and love reactions, the heart thing. The ratio was very interesting. The likes were almost 32,000, 31,897 likes. And there were 9,215 heart reactions, love reactions. That's great. So that adds up to around 40,000. That's good. But there were also almost 20,000 angry reactions. 19,402 at this time, whenever I took the numbers down. Angry reactions. So the country is split down the middle. Split down the middle on this, which only means we're going to have more division in the future, right? Take away what you want from those numbers. I don't really know what to make of it other than what we already knew. We're divided. All I know was that some of the evidence presented, I wasn't so sure that Floyd's death was 100% caused by Chauvin. I thought he'd be convicted of manslaughter. That's it. Now the DOJ, like I said, is investigating the police department in Minneapolis, a socialist Democrat city. Think about all the propaganda coming from Minneapolis right now. Like I said, Ilhan Omar. She's out there, isn't she? But this investigation that they're doing is such a joke. Even Leo Terrell, he called it a dog and pony show to the 10th degree. Dog and pony show to the 10th degree. This will be used as a tool by Biden and his administration to push their police and justice reform. that's literally a Trojan horse. This investigation is a Trojan horse. That's what it is. We hear, people on the right, conservatives talk about these Trojan horses. This is one. Absolutely. They're going to go in there and they're going to change the Minneapolis police department, and that's going to set ground rules, essentially, to change every police department. Put in federal legislation that actually changes policing as we know it. My goodness. The world my children will grow up in. It's so corrupt, so political. I mean, political is okay, but we've taken political to a whole new level. Speaking of a whole new level of offensive, did y'all actually hear what Pelosi said after the verdict came down in the Chauvin trial? This happened the afternoon after the trial, or the verdict was announced, like around 5 p.m., somewhere in there. But oh my gosh, was it horrible. Such a horrible thing to say. Crazy Nancy's crazy comment. That's the name of this episode, for good reason. She said, quote, "Thank you, George Floyd, for sacrificing your life for justice." What? Nancy's off her rocker again. After talking about hearing him call for his mom, she went on to say, quote, "And because of you, your name will always be synonymous with justice." So, let me get this straight. A man dies, and you're thankful for his death. Thank you for being murdered, George Floyd, is really what she's saying, because now I can use it how I want. What exactly are you thankful for, Nancy? Huh? You didn't exactly say what you were thankful for in this statement, and you're being a little vague, I would say. What are you thanking him for, other than dying? What are you going to use this for? Give us the reason. Why are you thankful? You know what? Like at Thanksgiving. Are you going to, at the Thanksgiving table next year, or maybe you call it Indigenous Peoples Day, are you going to say, I'm thankful for George Floyd dying so I could change America like Chuck Schumer said? But when you really start to think about it, the Dems are really trying to change the justice system, right? So now we know that what they're really going to use George Floyd's death for, and his family's horrible experience through all of this, as they're going to use it as ammunition. That's what they're using it as. They're putting it in their political gun and firing it so they can change the system. It's so racist to the system. It found a white man guilty of murdering a black man. Not that race matters at all in this situation. Only the left cares about race. I see people. I see humans. Fellow citizens. Americans. It's not about race. It doesn't matter. A human was murdered. A human. It doesn't matter the melanin count, how much melanin is in their skin. It doesn't matter. I clearly don't have very much. And for the record, it came back in our ancestry DNA that I have 1% black. So that's where I get my lips from, is what my wife says. But we really know. We know now what they're using George Floyd's death for. It's ammunition to change. We keep hearing them talk about this George Floyd Act. The George Floyd Act. So what is it? It's an act in Congress that would change policing as we know it. That's what it is, like they've been saying all along. But there's one other problem with what Pelosi and other liberals, including Floyd's girlfriend at the time of his death, said. If he gave his life for justice, people, think about this. No one has said this yet. No one has made this realization, had this realization. If George Floyd was murdered, right? If he was murdered in cold blood there on the pavement by Derek Chauvin. Excuse me. I jumped ahead of myself. If George Floyd gave his life for justice there on the pavement, being held under Derek Chauvin, then he was not murdered. If he gave his life, he was not murdered. Soldiers who go to war, if they are killed, are they murdered? No, they gave their life. It's horribly sad. But if George Floyd gave his life for justice, then he was not murdered. You cannot have it both ways. You cannot have it both ways. Giving your life does not get you murdered. It means you have been martyred. Which means, coming back to that, Derek Chauvin should not be charged for murder, should he? Manslaughter, because he let a man die. But he can't murder somebody who gave their life, right? The Germans didn't kill the British, or they didn't murder the British in World War II. They killed British. They killed Americans. They killed the French, Canadians, Australians. But they gave their life. So there's no murder. So if Nancy, if he gave his life, maybe you should write to the president, tell the president, oh, Chauvin's not actually guilty of murder. Manslaughter, yes, but not murder, because George Floyd, I've realized this, Nancy would say, I've realized George Floyd gave his life. He gave his life for justice. So he willingly died. Right? Willingly died for this. So you can't convict a man of murder and also have that happen. Spread that like wildfire. Because it's the truth. Can't kill somebody, can't murder somebody who gives their life. So Nancy, you might want to clarify. You might want to clarify that if you want to keep those murder charges. Did he willingly give his life, or was he murdered? Because the two, they directly contradict themselves. A man may have been wrongly convicted if George Floyd gave his life for justice. But, unlike George Floyd, who did not willingly die, unlike Nancy might want you to think, Arizona is actually willingly taking action. Look at this. Arizona declared a state of emergency and activates the National Guard by themselves. Why? Because the Biden administration is doing absolutely nothing to help. Arizona is having the same problem as every other border state, yet they're the only ones to do this. Still, the federal government has done nothing, like I said, to stem the flow of migrants into our country during a global pandemic where Americans can't even get on an airplane and travel internationally without having a negative COVID test, and in some situations, a literal vaccine passport, which is unconstitutional. You can't restrict the travel of Americans, not without calling martial law or a state of emergency. Something like that, where you can institute a curfew. You can't restrict movement. It's so stupid. Like, how do they get away with this? This is why it's so important to have an educated and informed public. Because without education, you don't know what they can and can't do. And this is why public education is failing, because they want it to fail. They want us to be uneducated. The Biden administration wants you to think they're doing something like putting Kamala in charge and having Mayorkas go down to the border. Kamala's going to the, what do they call it? The Central Triangle, Northern Triangle, whatever. She's going to Guatemala and, what was the other country? Doesn't matter. She's going down there to talk and try to stem the flow. Or maybe El Salvador is the other one. I think that's where else she's going. But let's look at the numbers. As of Tuesday, that's when I wrote these numbers down. As of Tuesday, according to the Border Patrol, 674,330 encounters have been made by the Border Patrol. That's a big number so far. We're in April. That's a lot of people. That's over 200,000 people per month. Let's see. Here in 2020, which is, COVID was happening, there were 646,822 encounters in the entire year. That's 30,000 less. Interesting. In 2019, there were 1,148,024 encounters. But we know this is when a previous migrant surge happened. In 2018, 683,178 encounters. And in 2017, 526,901 encounters. So if we've come this far to 674,000 encounters already, we can pretty much multiply that by 4, and that means we'll get close to something like 3.5 million encounters made by the Border Patrol this year. This fiscal year. 3.5 million. Wow. That is astronomical. It's good that Arizona is trying to control their border, because the Biden administration isn't. They don't care. They don't care at all. Let them come in. Let them infect the people, because we don't like the people anyway. That's what the Democrats want. It's horrible. It's horrible what they're letting happen to the children, to the people who are trying to make a better life for themselves. They're being abused by the cartels, and they're being abused in our custody. It's sickening. It's horrible to think about. We're on our way to a record number of encounters. There's no way we don't quadruple the number we're already at, and possibly the numbers from 2019. We could go over 4 million encounters if this continues. And it's bound to continue if nothing changes. The weather is only going to get better to travel in. If you've ever been to Mexico this time of year, it's very, very humid. It's very humid. So as it dries out, people will want to move more, and they'll want to move quicker. If the Biden administration isn't going to do anything, the human and drug trafficking that these people are enduring is only going to get worse, and it's already horrible. They're being taken advantage of. They're being herded like cattle right now. Herded like cattle. These are real, breathing, living people. And the Biden administration, mainly Kamala Harris, or as I've started to refer to her as co-president, not VP, co-president, because she's always with Biden. Have you noticed that? There's not been a single press conference that Kamala's not been by his side for. Think about all the presidents before Joe. That has not happened before. For every single press conference, something's up. But mainly Kamala continues to ignore the border situation as she travels across the country and to other countries across, flying over the people who are suffering at our border. She's literally going over them and not even acknowledging the fact that something's wrong. It's dumbfounding is what it is. It's unbelievable. The National Guard has been activated for this. This is a crisis. Something has to be done by the federal government, because to leave the states, like the Democrats believe in strong, centralized federal government. Yet, when the states need their help with this, they wash their hands of it. Nope, your problem. Joe, these are people who voted you into office that are being affected. It's not just Republicans out here who are being affected. It's Democrats too. It's socialists too. Communists even. It's the real people who are being affected. And the people who are coming across the border. They're being horribly affected. This is a crisis and the Dems know it. They just don't want to do anything about it. They don't care. I wash my hands of this issue. That's what Joe's doing. Why? Because they think that they're getting votes in the future from these people as they come here and endure the situation that we put them in. You think that they're going to reflect kindly on you because you told them to come? You're letting them sit there and be herded like sheep and cattle. Have you seen the pens that they're in? The holding cells that they're in? They are jam-packed, and it's only getting worse. They're having to expand the facilities every week. Have you not seen the stories? They're expanding every single facility, having to bring in new facilities for this. They don't care. They think they're getting votes through this. They think that this is going to reflect poorly on the Republicans. But who's in charge, Joe? Who's in charge, Kamala? It's not the Republicans. I'm pretty sure last time I checked, y'all have both houses, and you have the media, and you're trying to take over the court. You're in charge. This is your show. This is your mess, and you have to clean it up. You have the most power. You have the most control that you can place over the situation, yet you refuse to do so. It's ridiculous. It's saddening. It's depressing to see what these people are going through. But the Dems are banking on their vote, even though they're suffering through what the Dems are putting them through. Everything else they're doing is losing them votes. So they're trying to get votes from this. Watch out for 2022, Democrats, because y'all are not going to do well. There's no way that you think our country's better off than it was with Trump in office. It's way less calm. I know that. It feels very hectic. That could just be me, but it feels like something is not right. Something's wrong with what we're doing right now. And at least, we had a real president with Trump instead of one who takes naps after lunch and then goes to bed at 8:30 p.m. Wakes up probably pretty early, but then calls lids at 9 a.m. So where's the work he's actually doing? There's no way you think we're in good shape with what's going on. No way. And the Biden admin they have to stop living by pride and stroking that blown up ego that they have to save these people who are being abused daily. They've got to do something. Pride and your ego are not going to fix anything. Do something, Joe. Actually do something instead of proposing BS legislation and executive orders to try to fix things that you're not fixing anything. You're here to fix things, so fix them. That's the end of that. On to the Ma'Khia Bryant story. Now, I don't have very many followers yet on Twitter. I have more on Parler. But I've been in this conversation about the Ma'Khia Bryant situation. So if you want to go check that out, go ahead. Follow me on Twitter at Connor Womble and at Polly_Millennial with one N. And you can check that out because, man, some of these liberals are just off the rocker, man. How do you get so far out of touch? Anyway, so there was a police officer involved shooting in Columbus, Ohio, and it involved. They haven't released the officer's name yet, at least not since the time I wrote this. And Ma'Khia Bryant, a 16-year-old black female. Race doesn't matter to me. It doesn't. But that's what the media is reporting. Because they do care. I'm sure you've seen the video already. It's really sad. It's devastating to watch. But it's a different situation than the Toledo shooting or anything like that. She was armed. She was holding a knife and trying to murder somebody. Anyway. So two girls are in a confrontation when this police officer shows up. Ma'Khia gets pushed down. She gets up and she goes after another girl. She pins this other girl, who's the girl in pink. That's who I'm talking about. She pins her against a car and appears to thrust a knife at this girl in pink, and she misses. All the while, this officer is saying, get down, stop. Then she thrusts the knife, and at that point, it's attempted murder. After she misses this other girl, the officer fires his weapon 4 or 5 times, killing Ma'Khia. If you've seen the video, you can see Ma'Khia is really going after these girls. They're full-fledged fighting, full out. It's not a good situation, but there's ample evidence to support and justify pulling the trigger. Ma'Khia is really going after him. She's mad enough to try to stab this other girl in the stomach, so she's not going to stop if he doesn't stop her. But remember, this was not an unarmed shooting. She was definitely armed with a deadly weapon and attempted to stab someone. You can see this in the video. You can see it. It's very obvious. So when the officer observes the situation, Ma'Khia Bryant trying to stab this girl, he becomes cleared to use deadly force to protect themselves or a third party. This is in police code. And that's what happened. He protected another teenage girl from being stabbed in the stomach or the throat, the heart, who knows? She could have died. And that is what the officer stopped. But you know the narrative around this story, and I'm sure you've heard it. It's all wrong. It's all wrong. We should not be saying that this officer took a life. We should be saying that this officer saved a life. The optics are not good because of everything that the media has been talking about lately. And no matter the circumstances around a young person's death, it's always tragic. It's always tragic, no matter what they're doing, because something happened, something went wrong. Something made them do this. But they still did it. Ma'Khia still tried to stab this girl. But because this officer pulled the trigger, he saved her life. We have no idea if she was going to stop. She wasn't stopping before he pulled the trigger. She would, if you're mad enough to try to stab someone and you miss, you're going to go again. You're going to try again. You won't just stop. That's not how adrenaline works. If you've ever been in a fight or close to a fight or played a sport or anything like that, you know that adrenaline stays for a while. Excuse me, my goodness. She wouldn't have stopped. He stopped her. He saved the other girl's life. And there's actually video of her talking, saying, she tried to stab me. That's why he got her. That's a direct quote from this girl in pink. That's why he got her. She observed Ma'Khia trying to stab her in the stomach. She knew it was happening. She could see it. She saw the knife. You want to be stabbed? I don't think so. I don't think so. But again, on Twitter, people are going crazy. On Twitter and other platforms. This guy, I got this from a story, but this is a comment from somebody who was near what happened. He was in the area. This quote was taken from a reporter, or by a reporter. He is calling for his name's Mike Fair. It's in public record. It's out there. He showed up to the scene and he called for an eye for an eye and a tooth for a tooth, threatening the officer's life. Look, the media wants you to be upset about this. They want you to be mad. They want you to be devastated. And guess what? I'm devastated. It's very sad to me, very depressing to me that these young people are still they're going out trying to kill people. How do you go so wrong? It doesn't make sense in my mind, because I would never do it. But people are in different situations. That's just how it is. Doesn't matter what race you're in or you're of. We're all humans. If we're put in bad situations, sometimes we do bad things. But the media wants you to be upset. They want you to be devastated. They want you to be angry. Livid. They want you to be livid about this. No matter if this killing was justified or not. Why? Because they want riots to cover. That's what they want. They want more ammo so they can change the American justice system. The backbone of the United States. The backbone. If the backbone changes, the whole country changes. Everything changes. Your life will change. If it changes drastically, the rest of the country will follow. And probably for the worse. Probably for the worse. It's tragic. It's tragic that Ma'Khia was lost. And I said this on Instagram. I said this in the video I posted on Parler and Twitter. It's tragic that this happened. But she was attempting to harm people. She was attempting to harm other teenage girls who she was fighting with. But it's tragic because it put her in this situation. Whatever situation made her this upset, it's very sad that it happened. But it's her actions that caused the officer to pull the trigger, not her race. It had nothing to do with biases or prejudices or because he's a racist. He tried to de-escalate. She did not give him the chance. He showed up and he said, "Hey, what's going on?" That's what he said. Literally what he said. "Hey, what's going on?" She falls to the ground. Well, she's shoved, gets up and tries to stab somebody. What is he going to do? He has no other choice than to save this girl in pink's life. He saved her life. And people like LeBron are out there trying to threaten a police officer for saving someone's life. Would you rather the other girl be murdered, LeBron? Is that not worse than somebody acting like a criminal and attempting to murder someone? Attempted murder is what she's guilty of. She's not guilty of being black. She tried to murder somebody. The officer told her to stop. She didn't. She tried to stab another person after he told her to stop, and she paid the price that she was trying to force someone else to pay. She paid with her life because she was attempting to take a life. Look, I pray there aren't riots because of this. More riots, because we've already had riots last night. But if the trend continues, we know that there are going to be riots. Probably for a few nights. That's how it always goes. Why wouldn't there be? There are plenty of people upset about this, right? I'm included in that. I'm upset, but I will never in my life riot because it's immoral. It's unethical. It's against the law. I have enough common sense and critical thinking skills to know that this officer's actions were justified. I can see it. I see it. I hear it. Do you not? How do you not think this is justified? Someone was trying to murder somebody. It doesn't matter who they are, what age they were. Hopefully this wouldn't happen to a toddler, but come on. She was almost an adult, and she's trying to murder somebody, and you're going to stick up for her? What about the other girl? What if she had been murdered? It's ridiculous that y'all are harping on this. It just shows what your true intentions are. You're trying to change the system no matter the price. If that other girl had died, you would have tried to get the police officer fired for not saving her life. It's ridiculous. We cannot allow people to be running around with a knife trying to stab others, no matter how young they are. This is why the officer had to make the choice to pull the trigger. If you don't try to kill others, you won't put yourself in the situation to be killed. And that's the truth. And LeBron should shut his mouth. Because this officer had to do what he had to do. I bet you wouldn't do it. I bet you wouldn't have the balls to do it, LeBron. He protected that girl. And she is thankful for it. And her parents are thankful for it. Her family, her friends. I understand and I recognize that Ma'Khia's family lost somebody. It's horrible. But I'm sure they recognize she was trying to stab her, that other girl in pink. You try to stab somebody, bad things are going to happen to you. Now on to our last topic, which is good because we're over an hour again. Which is fine because I had a lot to cover. D.C. statehood. This came down today. Wow. The House passes a bill to make D.C. a state. Nothing but a power grab. That's all it is. It's nothing but a power grab by the Democrats. The seat of our government should not be its own state. That doesn't make sense. You have capitals, cities, capitals. You don't have capital states. That's like directly out of the Hunger Games. Bad things happened in the Hunger Games, did they not? It was a prediction. That shall serve as a prediction for what happens. Hopefully we don't have the Hunger Games. That would literally be crazy. And I don't think the people would stand for it. So don't get any ideas, liberals. But I don't know about you. I'd rather not live in the Hunger Games type of world. It doesn't seem like a great place. Yet we're seeing division like in the Hunger Games. We're seeing segregation like in the Hunger Games. We're seeing policies begin like we're in the Hunger Games, and we're seeing our capital city, a District of Columbia, proposed to be a state. And look, we knew that once it passed one house, it's going to pass the other. I hope it doesn't. I hope some Democrat in the Senate has the balls to stand up and say, nope, this is not right. It's unconstitutional. It is unconstitutional for D.C. to become a state, which is why they want to change the Constitution. Yep. Can the Democrats even give a good reason for changing D.C. into a state? And also, what would it be called? It can't be Washington, D.C. anymore because it's not a district, it's a state. Would it become Washington S.C., the state of Columbia? Or will it become Columbia? Somebody tell me, because it can't be the same. Oh my gosh, it's so stupid. It's such a stupid idea. They claim it's for representation in Congress. But these people, at some point, willingly moved to this place, probably not knowing that they weren't represented in Congress. But I gave the solution earlier this year in this podcast. Why are we making it a state? Why not cede the residential areas back to Maryland, where they came from, and that be that. Keep the federal government as its own seat and give the people back to Maryland. It's it's way easier. These people will just move under the state law of Maryland instead of having to create entirely new constitutions and Bill of Rights and the whole system for a new state. Why are y'all making this so hard? Why? There's no reason for this except for a power grab. You want more representation for yourself because you know that the people are coming for you in 2022 because y'all's policies are horrible. They're horrendous. They're catastrophic to this country. They're catastrophic to the rest of the world. Because if America changes, the world changes. So goes the United States, goes the world. That's how it goes. That's what we're dealing with. But they claim it's for representation. We all know that the Dems are betting based off of polling and demographics, which is racist by itself, that you're assuming these people are going to vote one way. That's racist. Based off of skin color, that's racist and stereotypical. The Dems are betting on these representatives being from one party and one party only. This is why I was one of five. Yeah, one party and one party only. That's the only reason. There's no other reason. If you wanted these people to have representation, you would add the residential areas back to Maryland. That's what you'd do. Because that is the simple fix. Why make it harder? Why make it harder on yourself? There's really nothing else to say about this. We see straight through it. It's probably going to pass, and it's going to change things. Which is what the Democrats want. They don't care if, people are hurt in the process. To them, the ends justify the means, and the ends that they want are tyrannical, authoritarian, totalitarian. They want to tell you what to do. That's what they want to do. It's ridiculous. Guys, there's going to be more on that. You can guarantee it. You can guarantee that we're going to talk about that more sometime. But as for today, that's it. That's the end. We talked about a lot today. More will come on all these subjects, I guarantee it. Because the Democrats' agenda is not going to change. And if it does, they'll claim that they never wanted this in the first place. That's just how it goes. But guys, y'all, thank you for listening. Thank you for watching. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe, and hit that notification bell on YouTube, because eventually they're not gonna like me very much. You can believe that. But hit it where it applies. Follow me, please. Tell your friends and family. Help me get the word out, because they're gonna trust you way more than they trust me. This podcast is mine. They're not gonna trust me about, they're not gonna trust what I say about it. If you appreciate what I'm trying to do here, what my mission is, what I'm trying to accomplish, I told you about the Patreon. The Patreon link is going to be in the description. You can just click on it. It'll take you straight to the site. Help me out. If you want to support me, that's great. If you want to just check it out, that's great too. So far, not a whole lot of traffic to the Patreon, but it'll come. I just started this adventure. And as you can imagine, there aren't any sponsorships yet. They're not there yet. So if your heart is telling you to support the cause, please do. But remember, there's no pressure. I'm not going to judge anybody for not supporting this. If you don't want to, please don't. Go ahead and follow me on Twitter and Parler at Connor Womble. That's with an ER. You can find me pretty easily. My actual title on Parler is The Political Millennial. On Twitter, that's my personal account. For the podcast, there's a separate account on Twitter. It is Poly_Millennial, and it's also Poly_Millennial with one N on both of those, but on Insta as well. You can find all the links in the description. Thank you all so much. It's been fun and it's been depressing, and I will see you maybe tomorrow or maybe Monday. We'll see. Thanks, guys. Bye.